AITA for siding with my friend about her husband's unfair inheritance choices? My friend is married to a much older guy. They have 2 kids, elementary school age. This is her first marriage and his second. He has 2 kids from his first marriage, early 30s, both living with partners, established jobs, no issues on the monetary side, one has kids themselves. My friend, let's call her Irene, works in education, not a huge salary, but she does okay. Her husband, let's call him Carl, will retire next year, from a well-paying job. They live in the home he bought before they met, only his name is on the deed. They pool their finances for household expenses and she also contributes to the mortgage. With their recent marriage came the issue of organizing their affairs, among which was a will. The problem was that Carl is dead set on wanting his inheritance equally split between his 4 kids and Irene. This means they each inherit 20%, regardless of their ages or situation, with no caveats about leaving Irene and the younger kids in the house while the kids are underage. Essentially, Irene will have to sell the house to give each of the kids their share. Carl also doesn't want to make different arrangements while his 2 youngest kids are underage, as he is adamant that they should be treated equally. While this is fine on principle, the reality is that Carl will most likely be the first to die. Given his age, he is often mistaken for his kid's grandfather. It's not unlikely to happen while his kids are still underage. The notary was a bit baffled by his choices, which he brought up at the meeting to discuss the terms. Irene had no idea this was Carl's plan and she feels vulnerable, understandably so in my opinion. The notary tried to suggest to Carl that it would be more prudent to set conditions about the ages of the kids, and perhaps also to, as is customary in my country, have the surviving spouse live in the house, which is then sold and distributed among the kids once that spouse dies too. Equally, of course, Carl was not open to any provisions the notary suggested for Irene having some form of buffer while the kids are still at home. He all but called Irene a gold digger and said he was sure she was resourceful enough to take care of the kids, but that he had to think about 4 kids, not 2. Carl seems to love all 4 kids equally. Side note, his older kids do not like Irene and that is mutual. They sided with their mother in the divorce. Irene met Carl after the divorce, which the ex and the older kids don't believe. Irene came back from the notary crying her eyes out. I dropped off something at their house by chance and came while they were having an argument about Carl's choices. Carl considers me to be a rational, intelligent person, his words, and asked what my opinion was. When I sided with Irene, he got angry and called me in. For not realizing that important life choices should be made with logic, not emotions. I pointed out his choices seemed illogical and potentially harmful to his 2 younger kids. He disagreed. AITA, edit. The amount of responses is overwhelming. I can't reply to all of them, but thank you all so much for the suggestions. I will certainly recommend that she stops contributing to the mortgage unless they arrange for her to get equity out of this. And the suggestions for a life insurance policy are also good ones. I think this may be an extra insurance. I hadn't considered the equality being found in the fact that he supported his older children in their education and likely will not be around for that time for the youngest kids, certainly the youngest of those 2, so to make sure that this is taken into account when he wants it to be equal. For those telling Irene that marrying an older guy with kids is her fault, well, the heart wants what the heart wants, I think. But thank you all. Lots to think about for her/them.